welcome to the channel. I want you to think about someone you know, maybe a close friend, a family member, or even a highly visible public figure who went through just a profoundly shattering crisis.
Yeah, like a really severe, life-threatening illness.
Right. An illness or a total emotional breakdown or just this period of unbearable suffering.
Absolutely.
And when they finally emerged on the other side of that darkness, their physical body was exactly the same, you know? Their voice sounded the same.
Right, but they were fundamentally different.
Exactly. Fundamentally different. Their lifelong interests completely changed. Their physical posture shifted. And deeply ingrained habits just like disappeared overnight without any logical explanation.
Yeah, and society has plenty of neat little labels for that phenomenon. I mean, we call it an existential crisis, a late awakening, or getting a second lease on life.
Yeah.
We categorize it as this extreme but ultimately metaphorical phase of personal growth.
Right, we just write it off because the alternative explanation is frankly too destabilizing to even consider. Oh, absolutely.
Like, what if the person who came back from that crisis is literally not the same soul who entered it?
Which is a huge thing to wrap your head around.
It is. So today, we are unpacking a really radical, startling concept known as the walk-in. It's this proposition that an elevated soul can assume a fully grown adult body with the original resident soul's explicit permission to fulfill a specific purpose in this world.
I mean, it sounds like pure modern science fiction.
Oh, totally.
But when you look at the historical and spiritual record, you find this is not some new age invention. It's actually an ancient, globally documented mechanical process of consciousness.
Wait, globally documented?
Yeah, it has a precise structure, a set of rules, and it's been observed by civilizations separated by vast oceans and, thousands of years.
Okay, let's unpack this because my mind is practically spinning at the implications here. To even entertain this idea, we have to address the giant flashing red flags that immediately pop up.
Oh, the red flags are definitely there. Right. Like, if a soul is suffering so much that it just decides to check out of its physical body and let someone else take over, isn't that just a metaphysical loophole for suicide?
That's the first question everyone asks.
Or looking at it from the other angle, isn't this just demonic possession dressed up in polite, luminous terminology?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the traditions that document this process draw very hard structural lines between those concepts. And the distinction really comes down to the mechanics of the exchange.
Okay, mechanics. How so?
Let's look at suicide first. In these ancient frameworks, suicide is viewed as the destruction of the instrument.
The physical body.
Right.
Yeah.
It generates massive karmic consequences because it prematurely interrupts a highly specific learning plan. It's the equivalent of a musician taking a priceless violin and smashing it to pieces against the wall, simply because they, personally, can no longer bear to play the music.
Oh, wow. But in the case of a walkout, the violin is preserved.
Exactly. The instrument survives. A walkout is fundamentally a negotiated agreement.
A negotiation? Like they actually talk it out.
On a spiritual plane, yes. The original soul communicates that it has reached its absolute limit, or perhaps that it has already fulfilled the specific purpose it incarnated to achieve.
Okay, I see.
Another soul, one that is already trained and prepared, agrees to take over the instrument. The body lives on. The difference is between destroying that violin and carefully, deliberately handing it over to a master musician who can pick up the bow and continue the symphony.
Man, I love that analogy. And it really highlights what it means to take over something that already exists.
Right.
Like there's this incredible analogy in the text that describes it perfectly. Being a walk-in is like inheriting a fully furnished house.
Yes, the fully furnished house.
You walk through the front door, you know exactly where the car keys are kept on the hook, you recognize the paintings on the wall, and you know how to operate the stove.
But you're a totally different occupant.
Exactly. The way you actually inhabit that space completely transforms. The neighbors wave at you from the sidewalk, and they have no earthly idea that the consciousness residing inside that house is entirely different.
It's a perfect way to visualize it.
But wait, we still have to address the possession aspect. Because taking over a human body sounds inherently invasive,
Well, intention and consent are the absolute defining factors here. Possession implies an invasion. It involves resistance, breaking down the host's will, and taking control for the self-benefit of a negative or chaotic entity.
Like a hostile takeover.
Exactly, a hostile takeover. But a walk-in, by strict definition, requires explicit conscious consent from the departing soul. It requires profound cooperation.
Okay, so they have to agree.
They do. And most importantly, the arriving soul must take a vow of service to humanity. They aren't dropping into a physical body to have a vacation. They are arriving to do heavy lifting.
Right, but how did this very Eastern esoteric idea make its way to the West? Because, I mean, we certainly weren't reading ancient Sanskrit texts about soul transference in mid-century America.
No, we definitely weren't. But the roots trace back far beyond Western spirituality. In Hinduism, centuries before the Christian era, text described a highly specific process called Avesa.
Avesa, okay.
Yeah, which translates directly to the voluntary entry of a superior consciousness into an already inhabited body, strictly with the resident's permission.
Wow.
And independently, Buddhism developed a parallel concept with the Bodhisattva ideal.
Okay, let's make sure that's clear for the listener. What exactly is the Bodhisattva?
So imagine standing at the exit of a burning building. You've navigated the flames, you're completely safe, and the door is wide open to the cool air outside.
You've made it to nirvana.
Right, nirvana. But instead of leaving, you stop, turn around, and voluntarily walk back into the smoke and the fire, purely to help others find the door.
Oh, man. That's powerful.
That is the Bodhisattva. They are enlightened beings who refuse the ultimate exit from suffering. They choose to return to the physical plane to guide those who are still trapped.
Just totally selfless.
Exactly. Now, these ancient civilizations didn't cross paths to compare their religious notes, yet both arrived at the exact same criteria: independently explicit consent and an unbreakable vow of service.
It's crazy how those Eastern concepts were eventually translated for Western minds, though. It's fascinating. You have figures like Alice Bailey, who spent 30 years, like from 1919 to 1949, operating in full consciousness as a transcriber for a Tibetan master named Dedwal Kul.
Right, Tibetan master.
Yeah, and Kul used this incredibly jarring term to describe the process. He called it divine obsession.
Which sounds terrifying to a Western ear.
It sounds absolutely terrifying, but he inverted the meaning entirely. Instead of a loss of autonomy to darkness, it meant a total alignment of purpose, like a complete surrender to serving humanity.
Which totally shifts the paradigm.
It does. And around that same time, another major figure brought this into the spotlight, Tuesday Lobsang Rempa.
Ah, yes. A very controversial figure,
Yeah.
but central to the modern understanding. He was a Tibetan monk who survived horrific torture during the Second World War.
Yeah, and he actually wrote about the walk-in process from the inside. He claimed that after his physical Tibetan body died from the trauma, he transferred his consciousness into the body of an Englishman who had agreed to depart.
Right, he took over the Englishman's body.
He famously described the human body as just an old garment that you discard when it's worn out or, pass on to someone else who happens to need it for a special task.
Which is such a wild concept for us.
Honestly, we are so deeply attached to our bodies as our ultimate singular identity that hearing a human body called a hand-me-down garment is almost offensive to our egos.
Oh, people definitely find it offensive.
But the person who really forced this concept into the Western mainstream wasn't a mystic at all. It was Ruth Montgomery.
She is just such a great entry point for this. She provides the perfect lens for this phenomenon. Because Ruth Montgomery was a highly respected, fiercely skeptical political journalist in Washington, D.C.
Right, she wasn't some fringe writer.
Not at all. She covered Capitol Hill, she dealt in hard facts, legislation, and political maneuvering.
So when her automatic writing sessions started bringing up the concept of walk-ins, she panicked. She was absolutely terrified it would destroy her credibility and ruin her journalistic career.
Naturally, she had a lot to lose.
But her spiritual guides pushed back on her hesitation with this brilliant, undeniable piece of logic. They asked her, society readily accepts that negative, dark spirits can invade a body against its will.
We call it possession.
Exactly. Religion warns about it, and even early psychiatry acknowledged the phenomenon. So why is it logically impossible for an elevated, luminous soul to enter a body with full permission?
That confrontation highlights a profound bias in human nature.
It really does.
We accept the dark, invasive version naturally, almost reflexively, but we fiercely reject the luminous, cooperative version out of sheer discomfort.
It just makes us squirm.
Montgomery eventually realized her rejection wasn't based on rational logic. It was based on the deep, unsettling unease of separating personal identity from physical biology.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this on your commute right now, you are probably grappling with that same unease. It fundamentally challenges everything we assume about who we are.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because Montgomery's guides didn't just explain the spiritual mechanics of how a soul swaps places, they started dropping names.
Oh, the names are staggering.
They identified staggering, world-altering historical figures as walk-ins. Benjamin Franklin was one.
Yes, Franklin.
When he was just 22 years old, long before he became a founding father, he wrote his own epitaph. He compared his physical body to an old book with a worn cover and faded lettering, and he boldly stated he would reappear in a new and more elegant edition, revised and corrected by the author.
Which is incredibly specific phrasing.
He firmly believed his mind was completely indestructible and separate from his flesh.
And the framework suggests that at 22, the original soul who inhabited Benjamin Franklin had already departed.
Wow.
The walk-in, the consciousness that would eventually become the architect of American innovation and diplomacy, had just taken the wheel.
But the most dramatic example they gave was Abraham Lincoln. Let's look at Lincoln for a second. We're taught about the stoic, unshakable leader. What gets glossed over is his period of absolute, terrifying despair.
It was a very dark time for him.
In the 1840s and 50s, Lincoln suffered from violent, blinding headaches. He experienced a melancholy and depression so severe, so crippling, that his friends literally had to hide all the knives and razors in his house because they feared what he might do to himself.
They were genuinely afraid for his life.
And then a rupture occurs. He emerges from that horrific crisis, and suddenly this entity has the unimaginable fortitude to sign the Emancipation Proclamation and drag a fractured, bleeding country through a civil war.
It's a complete paradigm shift in his personality.
Montgomery's guides claim the Lincoln who saved the Union was a walk-in.
Mahatma Gandhi is also frequently discussed in these circles. The soul that awakened an entire nation without ever resorting to the sword.
Right.
Though when Montgomery asked her guides why Gandhi hadn't returned as a walk-in to help guide modern India through its current crises, they corrected her assumption about how advanced souls operate.
Because returning to a physical body would actually limit him.
Precisely. They explained that a soul like Gandhi can serve in a far more expansive capacity from the spiritual side.
It makes total sense.
When you aren't limited to a single physical body, locked into a single geographic location with vocal cords and a need for sleep, your reach is multiplied exponentially. You can influence millions of minds simultaneously.
Man, the historical list is just staggering. Emanuel Swedenborg, who abandoned his fame as a prominent European scientist overnight to map the spiritual dimensions.
Meister Eckhart.
Joseph of Egypt, even three framers of the Declaration of Independence.
Look at the undeniable historical pattern here, though.
Here?
In almost every single one of these cases, the transformation happens at a point of absolute catastrophic rupture.
Right, there's always a breaking point.
A personal crisis, a limit experience, a total physical or mental collapse. And on the other side of that breaking point, someone emerges who acts with a clarity, a relentless courage, and a scale of vision that their preceding circumstances absolutely do not justify.
The continuity of their personality is permanently broken.
Yes.
I have to stop you there, though, and push back a little, because when you lay it out like that, I can't help but see a massive problem.
Oh, what's the problem?
This sounds like an incredible spiritual cheat code.
A cheat code?
Yeah. An arriving soul gets to skip childhood. They don't have to deal with the messy conditioning of toddlerhood, the hormonal chaos of puberty, or early heartbreaks.
I see what you mean.
They just bypass 20 years of biological growing pains and jump into an adult body ready to change the world. I mean, I don't see how taking over a 30-year-old body isn't just extreme spiritual privilege.
It definitely appears to be a shortcut, until you examine the brutal karmic mechanics of the exchange.
Brutal mechanics.
Yes. Before reincarnation, in the preparation space between lives, a dimension sometimes referred to as otherwhere souls are matched with physical opportunities. And in some cases, the original soul, the one who actually goes through childhood, is born solely to act as a bridge.
Meaning they sign up for the pain on purpose, just to prep the body.
Yes. They deliberately accept childhood trauma, the physical suffering, and the biological growing pains, specifically to prepare that physical vehicle.
That is heavy.
The original soul's entire life mission was to build the emotional scars, the defensive habits, and the specific psychological resilience that the incoming walk-in will need to operate in a harsh world.
Okay, I hear the concept of the bridge, but I still have a hard time with this. Even if that original soul agreed to be the bridge, the incoming soul, the supposed master, still gets to skip the mess. They just inherit the finished product.
Well, to answer that, we have to look at neurobiology.
Yeah.
You aren't just inheriting physical muscles, you are inheriting deeply hardened neurological trauma.
Oh, I see. The brain wiring.
Exactly. Adapting to an adult body with pre-wired anxieties, ingrained fears, and a traumatized nervous system is violently difficult. And this becomes undeniable when you look at the extreme cases.
Like what?
Walk-ins don't just take over the bodies of future presidents sitting in comfortable libraries. They assume the bodies of wounded soldiers bleeding out on muddy battlefields. They take over the bodies of prisoners sitting on death row.
But why? Why on earth would an elevated, luminous soul deliberately choose a body that is condemned to be executed or a body that has been mangled by shrapnel?
According to the accounts, a celestial computer, an unimaginably complex spiritual intelligence, matches candidates based on energetic resonance and karmic need.
A celestial computer. Wow.
If an arriving soul needs to erase past life karma, say, they caused massive violence or death in a previous incarnation hundreds of years ago, they might deliberately choose a suffering, dying body as an instrument of rapid redemption.
So the goal is confrontation, not comfort.
Exactly. That entirely erases the idea of spiritual privilege. They are not looking for an easy ride or a shortcut to fame. They are looking to settle a severe karmic debt, and they use extreme physical suffering to balance the scales.
Man. If these souls are so incredibly advanced, why go through the messy biological paperwork at all? Why don't they just materialize? What about figures like Krishna or the Buddha? Were they walk-ins?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we find a crucial distinction between avatars and walk-ins.
Okay, what's the difference?
The guides clarified that beings like Krishna or Buddha are avatars. An avatar is a perfected soul that moves between the physical and spiritual planes with absolute freedom. They come and go like someone casually opening and closing a door.
Must be nice.
Right. But the walk-in operates under completely different, much heavier rules.
Because once a walk-in assumes a body, they are locked in. The door shuts behind them.
Yes, the door shuts.
They take a vow of altruism that cannot be broken, and they are bound to human limitations until the natural death of that organism. They have to deal with aging, illness, exhaustion, and a fragile nervous system that they didn't even build.
The avatar serves from above, free of the flesh. The walk-in serves from within, entirely bound by the flesh.
So how does the actual transition work logistically? I mean, you don't just snap your fingers and switch consciousness.
No, it is an incredibly coordinated, highly sensitive logistical operation. Think of the human nervous system like an electrical grid.
Okay, an electrical grid.
If you take a massive, highly evolved consciousness, let's call it a high voltage power line, and suddenly plug it directly into a standard 110 volt human body, you're going to blow every fuse. It would physically destroy the nervous system.
So there has to be a buffer. And the texts say the walk-in and the walk-out actually maintain contact on the spiritual plane for a while. There is a massive spiritual support system operating behind the scenes.
A whole team.
Yeah, some entities are specifically assigned to calm the departing soul, helping it release its deep attachment to the physical world. Others act like transformers on that electrical grid, slowly adjusting the frequency levels of the physical body so it doesn't fry. And there is literally a security detail assigned to the transition.
That security detail is vital. Going back to your furnished house metaphor, it's like leaving the front door wide open while you move the old furniture out and the new furniture in.
Right, anyone could just wander in.
If you don't have a security guard standing at that door, any wandering, opportunistic entity could just walk into the empty living room. The body is incredibly vulnerable during the exchange.
And during that vulnerable transition phase, there's even alternate occupancy. Like the new soul might take the wheel while the physical body is sleeping or daydreaming, just to test the biological reflexes and get a feel for the neural pathways before taking full control.
It's like taking the body for a test drive.
Yeah.
And once the massive logistical process is complete, the definitive sign of a successful exchange is a profound, unshakable sensation of calm.
Just total peace.
The new soul retains all the memories of the original person, but they exist purely as data. The emotional wounds, the visceral trauma attached to those memories, they're completely gone. They remember the past, but they no longer feel the sting of it.
So what does this all mean? What does this mean for you listening to this right now? Because the reality is most walk-ins aren't Abraham Lincoln.
No, they're not.
They aren't famous politicians or historical heavyweights altering the course of nations. Most of them operate in total, absolute silence. They are emergency room nurses. They are public school teachers. They are the quiet coworkers sitting next to you at the office.
Ordinary people.
Yeah, they are the people you pass in the supermarket aisle who are operating under a profound, heavy vow of service to humanity that they don't even consciously remember making.
It leaves us with a truly provocative thought to ponder.
What's that?
We are so deeply conditioned by religion and philosophy to think of spiritual evolution as a quest to escape the physical body, to transcend the flesh, leave the suffering behind, and achieve some ethereal freedom in the clouds.
Right, that's the ultimate goal, supposedly.
But what if the ultimate demonstration of spiritual mastery isn't escaping the flesh at all? What if true mastery is voluntarily trapping yourself inside it, adopting someone else's agonizing pain, their biological trauma, and their unresolved karma, purely to serve strangers in total anonymity?
Wow.
If you have undergone a massive crisis and feel fundamentally, inexplicably renewed, perhaps identity and body are not synonymous at all.
Man, it completely shatters how you look at the people around you, the strangers you interact with every day, and maybe even how you look at yourself in the mirror. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our future discussions. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.